Hello guys, JPiiONEFOURONE here, and today I'm bringing you a video of how to make a Pokeball in Cinema 4D. I've just uploaded this to my DeviantArt. I'll put a link to it in the description, but this is the basic outcome, what it's going to look like at the end. So, yeah, so I'm going to start a new project, and we'll go from there. So, right, click create a new one. I'm just going to resize the output for now, just to get rid of the annoying bars at the side. There we go. Okay, so we want to start off with just making a simple sphere. I'm just going to zoom in on it so that we can see it better. Right, we want to set the type of this sphere to a hemisphere. This makes it a half a sphere so that we get the top half of the Pokeball, the red part of it. If you've seen a Pokeball before, which I assume you have if you're watching this video, you'll know that there's a small gap in between the two halves, which is the blackish line around the outside of it. So to get that to look right, we're going to have to delete a row of segments off the hemisphere. If we took this much off, it'd look ridiculous. It's way too much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the segments to 96, and then we're going to just remove this one row here, and that'll make it look a lot better. So to remove this, you want to go to your polygon tool, go to select, and you want to press C on your sphere first to change it, make it editable. Okay, so go to polygon mode, select, loop selection, select the row around there, and delete it, and go back to your normal. Okay, so now I've got a row deleted. Now you want to add the arch, the circle that's removed from it, as well as the ring, which is where the button goes on the Pokeball. So to do that, we're going to be using this thing called a ball. You may or may not have used this before, but what it basically does is it takes two shapes or two objects and it will remove one set from the other, so it will leave like a hole kind of thing. So in order to do that, we're going to make a cylinder. Sorry about that. Ignore that. We're going to make a cylinder. We're going to rotate it 90 degrees this way by holding shift to get it to round. There we go. Now I'm going to resize this because it's way too big at the minute. If we took that much out, it would look ridiculous. So I'm going to resize this to 50% again by holding shift to make it a nice round number. And then I'm going to move it so that it intersects with that there, like that. Once you've done that, you want to drag the cylinder underneath the sphere. I'll show you why in a minute. You want to select both the sphere and the cylinder and drag it inside the ball. You see that has taken away this arch here. You want to make sure that the cylinder is not sticking out the other side as well, else it will get rid of that shape the other side as well, which is not what we want. Okay, make sure your ball is set to either A without B or A subtract B. They do exactly the same thing, and you should get this. If we put the cylinder above the sphere like this, you'll see that it gets rid of the cylinder. Sorry, it gets rid of the sphere, not the cylinder. It takes away the sphere from the cylinder, but obviously this is like 1 pixel thin so far, so it doesn't actually do anything. So yeah, we need to do it the other way. There we go. Once you've done this, you want to grab your ball, go to your polygon tool, Control A to select it all. Sorry, on your sphere, sorry. Control A to select it all. Sorry, I'm being stupid. Right, you want to press C on this ball to make it into it basically compiles it and makes it a finished object. And now if you delete the cylinder, you see that the arch remains there still. You want to drag this out of the ball and delete the ball, and then we'll just have the sphere left. Right, so you want to go to your polygon tool and select all on the sphere, and then you want to right click, extrude, and set the offset here to about 2 and click apply, and this will basically make it slightly 3D. As you can probably see here, it makes it 3D, not just a 1 pixel thin thing. Right, once we've done that, I'm just going to rename this to top half just to make it easier later. I'm going to paste it, rename this one bottom half, and rotate it 180 degrees this way, and also 180 degrees this way, so that the arches meet up. Let's get this perfect. There we go. Okay, once you've done that, You just want to again go to create a new sphere, and that will just fill in that area. And there you go. Right, next off we need to do the button. So to do that, you just want to create 2 more cylinders. On one, you want to rotate it 90 degrees this way again. I'm just going to do them both at the same time. Right. Grab one of the cylinders. I'm going to resize this to 10% less than I did the arch. So I did the arch 50%, so I'm going to do this one 40%. And then the next one, I'm going to do that 10% less again, so this one's going to be 30%. Okay. Now I'm going to grab this cylinder, move it, whilst holding shift until it gets to 60 centimeters, and that should have it sticking out slightly so that it's perfectly in line with the outer shell, like that. Not perfect, but it's good enough. Okay, and then with the next cylinder, again you want to do that again, but once, as you see, 70 is exactly what the other one is, but if you add another 10 on there, that is way too far out. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to here, set this to minus 72.5, and that just sticks it out slightly more from the last one, which makes it look cool. Okay, I'm just going to zoom out a little bit. Now we're just going to texture it, so we want to make 3 textures. So I'll tell you what, we'll make 1 and then duplicate it to make things easier. First one needs to be white. You want to set the reflection to about 10%. Click this little arrow here next to texture and change it to Fresnel, and then add the mix strength to make that 20. It should look like that. Now I'm going to close that. I'm going to duplicate this twice. Set one of them colour to red and one of them to black, or at least a very dark grey. Okay, now just drag these onto here like this. The button wants to be white. So that's the basic Pokeball done, but now we're going to do the environment to make it look, well, just look cool basically. If I just render this out to show what it looks like so far, it looks like a Pokeball pretty fine. Right, next up I'm just going to select all of my parts of Pokeball, Alt-G to group them, and rename the group Pokeball. There we go, just to neaten things up. Okay, now I want to add a floor. And then I'm going to move the Pokeball up so that it's in line with the floor. If I just go to front view by pressing F3 and zoom in a little, so we can get this in line. 100 is, let's say 105 should be fine actually. Doesn't have to be perfect, but I'm going to make it perfect. 102.5 is perfect. Right, okay, there we go. Perfectly in line with the floor. Right, now I want to add a floor texture, and the texture I used before was made using a program called FilterForge. You can download that off the internet. You can get a 30-day free trial, which is what I'm using. It gives you full access to it for 30 days only. So I've just made this white tile format. I'll show you how FilterForge works. Just wait for it to load a second. Okay, so FilterForge, what it basically does is you can choose a style and you can edit it. I use this one. Settings, if you take the seamless tiling, that will mean that when you tile the image it will perfectly run in smoothly into each other. I'm just going to close this because I've got recordings running and that running and slow my computer down a little, but it's a really cool software for making images like this. If you want to add a cool effect to the ground like I have done, so that it basically detects how high each tile is from the last and from the cracks in between, so that the sunlight, which we're going to add, reacts accordingly to it. To do that, you want to save your image like this, and then you want to go to Filter, Render Maps, and Bump Map, which will make this black and white image like this, and save that as a new image. Once you don't have to do this, you can just use any text you want, but once you've done that, you want to add the normal version of it to your text, your new material that you've made, and then you want to go to Bump, add this, and then add the bump texture to that one. Okay, then let's drag that onto the floor. We'll render that out now. You don't see the bumping yet because I haven't actually added a light yet. Okay. Next thing I want to do is add sunlight. So to do this, I want to get this light, hold this light on here, go to sunlight. You'll see that it's really dark at the minute, because it sets it to the time of your computer at the minute, so 6:51, 6:52 now. But I'm going to set this to about half 2, maybe half 3. Yeah, we'll say half 3 for now, and this just makes it slightly not too light, but not too dark. It's half 2, seems about right. Well, 2:52. Okay. Next up, we want to add a sky like this. It adds a nice lighting around it apart from the sun, so that it isn't too intense. It hasn't done much so far because we have to actually add a material to the sky. To do that, we're going to go to Create, Load Material Preset. Yours may be different to mine, but mine was in Prime Materials HDRI, and you have all these presets here. I used HDRI 9, but I was just clicking random ones until I got one that looked good. You see this one's like a harbour, a nice sunny harbour. So you just want to drag that one onto the sky, and if we render that now, you won't see any difference really so far. You can see that the ball reflects it slightly. You can see the sun there, and you see some object there, but this shadow still looks way too intense. The way we can fix this is by adding global illumination. So you want to go to your render settings, Effect, Global Illumination, which is here, and close that, and we'll render this out. You see this bit here with all these dots and whatnot. This is just basically Cinema 4D calculating how the light reflects and where it should be brightest and that kind of stuff. So you can see this is looking a lot cooler already. The shadow isn't as intense, it looks a lot more realistic. The ball is reflecting nicely, and there's a slight shadow underneath the ball here, a very slight shadow underneath the ball. So this is looking pretty damn cool so far, but there's one more thing I want to do before we finish this. You want to go back to your render settings, go to Effect, Ambient Occlusion. You can leave this default, but I'm going to make the minimum ray length to 50 and the maximum to 150, just to give it a slight more intense kind of shadow. I'm also going to edit these minimum samples and maximum samples from 10 to 64 and 64 to 128. The reason I'm doing this is because if I'm just going to render this out now. If you leave those quite low, the render time will be a lot quicker, but you'll see that the shadow that it creates is very grainy. But if you increase those numbers, it won't be quite as grainy. I mean, it's still grainy here, look, but you're going to have to do the samples pretty damn high to make it nice and smooth, and that's going to increase the render time dramatically. So 64 to 128 is decent if you've got a nice fast computer, but if you've not, you can leave it out completely if you want to, or just leave it at the default 10 to 64. So as you can see, this is looking pretty awesome. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tilt the Pokeball slightly, just so it looks like it's been rolling. It's not perfectly straight, so let's just do something like this, just to make it look like it's been rolling. I'm just going to render that out again, one last time for you guys. Shouldn't take too long. And there we go. I mean, I think that looks really cool, but you may think differently, but whatever, I don't care. Right, one last thing I'm just going to do just to make it look a little cooler is just add anti-aliasing onto it to make it look better quality. I'm not going to do too much because it will take way too long to render, especially as I'm recording at this time as well. So it's taking a little longer to render, but it just makes it look a lot cooler. As you can see with the shadowing from the sun actually generates shadows in between the buttons. You can't really see it very well at the angle that I'm at, but if I zoom in and rotate the ball like this, if I just render this small region right here, just give this a second, it's because I've got anti-aliasing. I should probably turn that off, but it's not done now, there's not very much point. I love how it leaves the bit that I want to show you till last, the button part. Right, as you can see, there's a slight shadow generating onto the second stage of the button. which it just looks really cool. I think it just gives this slight effect to it, and I think it looks really awesome. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. It's the first editing tutorial I've done in a long time, actually. But yeah, so thanks a lot for watching, guys, and goodbye.